this session, and tomorrow will be uploaded in our webpage. All the audience, if you move your mouse, you can, or touch your screen in your mobile device, you will see some options. Your cameras and sounds are switched off, so you will not be recorded in the event. That's important for the audience. There is a globe symbol that offers 2 languages to hear the event, English and Spanish. We have a translator in the Spanish channel, if you want to click on it. So I'm going to translate this into Spanish speakers in case they haven't found the option. Hola, si movéis el ratón, podréis ver las opciones de la llamada. Hay un símbolo de globo terráqueo en el que si clicáis en él, os ofrece 2 opciones de audio, en inglés y en español. Vuelvo a hablar en inglés. There is also an option to enable the automatic transcription that I will enable now, but it's only in English, okay? And then there is also a chat option where you can communicate with us later in the Q&A, okay? Before finishing the event, we will send you a 2-question poll, so please stay till the end in order to know how we have done. So now that everyone knows how to move around here, we are going to start with the session. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague, Esther Jimenez, Project Manager of the Rural Employability Network.
Good morning, everyone. We are very happy to welcome you all to the first event of the REN project. My name is Esther, and I am part of the team of the Employment and Entrepreneurship Department at the Fundación Santa María la Real. The Rural Employability Network is a project that we have launched this year in 2021, funded by the European Social Fund and in collaboration with 6 regional public administrations and public employment services, the Provincial Council of the region of Palencia and the region of Jaén, the regional government of Castilla-La Mancha, and the public employment services of Navarra, Extremadura, and Asturias. This project represents the commitment of the Foundation to continue working for generating sustainable development and activating the territories through the implementation of innovative projects and initiatives. We have a vast experience working on the rural areas. I'm not going to list all the projects, but I will just highlight some of them. The Launching Path program, which is one of the most famous ones, I think you all know it, and one of the most impactful projects we have implemented. Specific in the rural areas, we have more than 600 experiences, and we have reached out more than 700 people. We also implemented the Mining Basins program in Castilla y León with the goal of enhance the value of the communities, mining basins, and the Go Green program, a project to promote the green employment in the rural areas in the regions of Castilla y León and Asturias. But with this project, the REN project, we want to go a step further with the specific goal of fighting against the depopulation in the rural areas by fostering employability and economic development. For that, what we are doing is looking for innovative models implemented by other European organizations to transfer them to the Spanish territory through the creation of this network. Today, the REN counts 14 members from different countries in Europe. You can go to our website, visit our website. In the member section, you can see which are the organizations that are part of the REN to date. Also, if you want to join the network, we will be very happy. Just fill out the form, join us, or send us an email to rent@santamarialareal.org. The main goal of today's event is to bring you a clear vision of how other organizations across Europe address social inclusion in the rural areas and how they work the employability with vulnerable groups. We are very lucky to have with us today for the discussion panel 3 representatives of different European organizations that work for social inclusion in rural areas. Joana Brandão from A4 Association in Portugal, Brian Schmidt from LDCO, which operates the Social Farming Ireland National Office, and Lorenzo Barucca from Legambiente, Italy. We want to especially thank you for accepting the invitation and being here with us to share your knowledge and experiences. Thank you very much. The event will last about 1.5 hours during the discussion panel session that will take place from now till 12:15 approximately. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them on the chat box, and at the end, we will try to answer all of them. I think we will have time. After this discussion panel, we will have 15 minutes until 12:30 p.m., where we will highlight the conclusions of the event. Now I will give the floor back to my colleague Miriam, who will moderate the discussion panel. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Esther, for providing the framework for the day. I will moderate the discussion panel, so I would like to continue by providing some context to the theme of the event today. The topic that brings us here is inclusivity in rural areas. Why is that important? This past month, we had the chance to talk with a bunch of European organizations from different countries that are working in the rural field. And all sorts of problematics and questions have arisen, like, for example, depopulation. Depopulation and the lack of generational renewal and the disappearing services and job opportunities in the rural areas that comes with it. And also, we have noticed the difference between the rural areas depending on how the agricultural and economic model system is. For example, there are places with intensive agriculture, there are other places with a lot of abandoned land, and how life organizes around this makes very difficult for people to integrate there. Also, we cannot forget the opportunity that has brought the crisis generated by the COVID-19, with people coming from the cities to live to the countryside. Also coming with migrants and refugees, which is an opportunity to retain them all in these areas. But at the end of the day, there is a need of support of the residents who are living already in the rural areas in a precarious life. And also the need of the integration of the vulnerable collectives, like migrants looking for a place to settle, women in situation of violence, people with mental illnesses or disabilities, people recovering from substance abuse, people without higher formal education, and obviously the long-term unemployed. The integration offers an opportunity for the revitalization of the rural areas. Today, we have 3 panelists, and they are all coming from different backgrounds and projects, but with the same objectives: the inclusion of vulnerable people in rural areas. First of all, we have the A4 Association, Welcome, Accept, Act and Adapt from Portugal, with the objective of creating a solid structure capable of helping people with alcohol-related problems in rural areas. With the project Acolher, the A4 Association works for the professional reintegration of people recovering from alcohol abuse through agricultural practice and wicker work, soft skills training, and individual support. Today with us, Joana Brandão, sociologist and project officer. Hello, Joana.
Hello everyone.
Thank you for coming today.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Brian Smith from the Littering Development Company in Ireland, which promotes, assists and engages in social and enterprise development to facilitate rural and urban regeneration in Leitrim, Ireland. From different programs they run, they have the social farm in Ireland, offering people who are socially, physically, mentally, or intellectually disadvantaged the opportunity to spend time on a family farm in a healthy, supportive, and inclusive environment. Social farming provides the opportunity for labor inclusion, to increase self-esteem, and to improve health and well-being by taking part in a day-to-day farm activities on a working farm. Today we have with us Brian Smith. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for coming today.
Good to be here, thank you.
And last but not least, Legambiente from Italy is a non-profit association with the objective of protecting the environment in all its forms, the quality of life, and a more equitable, fair, and supportive society. They have the ECO project, Circular Economy of Communities for Environmental, Social, and Cultural Regeneration. This project has the objective of increasing employability of unemployed people in the circular economy sector, supporting the inclusion in the labor market. Today we have Lorenzo Baruca with us. Hello, Lorenzo.
Hi, hello, nice to meet you. Hi.
Thanks for coming today, Lorenzo. Okay, so since we are aware that difficulties arise from the lack of answers from the administration and that rural areas are being neglected from public protection policies, today we are going to focus on something else, which is what these organizations are doing to promote the inclusion of the most vulnerable people. So I would like to start with a discussion, and we will throw 5 questions to the panelists, and each one will answer in an interview format. After that, you can write your questions in the chat and we will try to answer them. So I would like to start with the first question to all the panelists. What are the characteristics of the rural areas where you work? So maybe we can start with Joana Brandão. Joana.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for our invitation. It was a pleasure for us to share our experience in a Acolher project. This project is financed by Innovation Portugal, POESI, Portugal 2020, and the European Union. So in relation to the question, we work at Aroca, that is a village in metropolitan area of Porto. It is north of Portugal, and it is the one of districts of Aveiro. The municipality of Aroca is less industrialized than the most of the districts, and the main activities are agriculture, forestry, livestock, and viticulture. Nevertheless, it should be noted that some sectors of the manufacturing industry are crucial cornerstones for the future economic development of the municipality, namely the leather industry, shoes, luggage, and travel articles, the youth industry, and manufacturing of metallic products. Another of the great feature is that tourism has allowed to attract a lot of people, namely the largest pedestrian bridge that is in Aroca and the Paiva walkways also.
Oh, sorry, I was silenced. Thank you, Joana. Thank you very much. Thanks for telling you. I will pass the floor to Brian. Brian, can you tell us what are the characteristics of the rural area where you work?
Yeah, thank you. I work in a small rural area. There's 30 or 26 counties in the Republic. I cover in our own work, we cover one of those, the area of Leitrim. It has a population of about 30,000. It's very small. The population is very dispersed. It's about 19 or 20 people per square kilometre, so it's very dispersed, very rural, very high levels of rurality. There are very small villages. The largest town is 4,000 people, so people are very spread out. But in the social farming project, we cover the whole country. So implementing the leader social inclusion programs as well. So the nature of the territory varies with our social farming project because we cover the whole country. We have a national project. So, and we operate in that regard. And there are 2, I suppose, differences in the south and east in terms of agricultural production, in that it's very intensive, and in the northwest and border area, it's much less intensive. In the area that we operate here, there is what you could call some land abandonment, in that the land is poorer for intensive production, and it's been cropped with monoculture forestry, and it's leaving, I suppose, it's leaving agricultural production population is in decline. Schools are closing, services like the banking services, post offices, police stations, all retreating. And that's in many rural areas across Ireland, not just in Leitrim, but in our particular territory, that's what's happening. there's a concentration of people in the villages and towns, and obviously new people moving. We have quite a number of people moving to the area. As you mentioned, with COVID, people are looking to buy properties, and so the property prices are beginning to rise. We have program refugees who've moved to our local town in Carrick-on-Shannon. We have about 100 of those that came a few years back. So we have movement of population so in Leitrim, but also other areas of the rest of the country. Agriculture is intensifying more and more and leaving smaller family farms behind. So, and we are struggling more and more to sustain themselves. So I suppose that's a picture, a brief picture of what's happening.
Thank you, Brian. I think we had some cuts from your connection. Your connection,
sorry.
might be a bit poor, but at least in the captions, we got what you were trying to say.
Okay.
But maybe if you can try to fix your connection, I don't know how, but it's because it was a bit broken when you were talking. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. Yep, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I will pass the same question to Lorenzo. What are the characteristics of the rural areas where you work?
Okay, nice to meet you. Thanks for the invitation for today. We hope that the next time we have it not online, but in presence. I hope that the line will be a good line for listening. I am in a little town in Italy, in Piemonte, in Vico Canavese, in Val Chiusella. And like Legambiente, we work in all Italy. We have like 100,000 volunteers. And we have a specific campaign on little town. And you have to understand that the characteristic in Italy, that is, we have almost 8,000 commons, and the 5,500 are little town. So 44% of the person in Italy lives in the little town. So it's a very high number of little town that we have. We work with this little town, and then during this morning we are going to understand which town we choose and why we choose this little town. We are speaking about a town with less than 5,000 inhabitants in Italy. Some general characteristics that we have in this town. You said something at the beginning, it's almost the same. I want to say just a very big problem about digital divide. Not very good local transportation, that we have to understand that this will be a very big problem for the inclusion. And a lot, like 50% of empty spaces, empty houses in this little town. So we have a lot of buildings, but not people in that buildings. Not a lot of young people that is going away. So this is a general characteristic that I think is the same in all the Europe, and we register less community activities in these areas. So it means that instead of the beginning, instead of several years ago, now we have less community activities. That is a point that we have to focus on. These characteristics, and I don't want to be just a negative aspects, but because we have positive aspects, because we have the characteristic that the life is slower, and we can have time to have a good impact. Instead, if I have to do a difference between our work in the big cities like Rome and the work in the little town, we can say that if we work in the little town, we can see the work that we are going, and we can have an impact. And that's important for the association like us, because we can see how we can change. And during this morning, we can start. I try to show in this interview how we choose to work for changing the things in these areas. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. Thank you. That was very interesting. I think the situation is very similar in Spain. So I would like to go to the second questions, which is, what are the characteristics of the people you work with in your projects? So maybe Joana, would you like to tell us?
Yes, of course. Well, the majority of our people have low personal, social, and professional skills associated to low education level, cognitive limitations, and psychological disturbs. Initials have some resistance to establish a therapeutic relation. Self-efficacy, they believe that are not able to solve the problems. Loss or low self-esteem, family problems, family conflicts, communication, conflict resolution, marital problems, are stigmatized people. Community and their families have difficulties to accept their conditions and have difficulties to handle with these people also. Some of them have low familiar support. Others have families that are aware and take care of them. Have tired families about the alcohol situation. Some of them are exhausted about this. Have traumatic childhood, violence, abuse, negligence, poor education. Have problems about the justice, drunk driving, car accident, domestic violence. The other question is the employment. Have problems with boss. Economic fragilities. In majority, they spend the money to buy drinks. Have difficulty to recognize that have a problem, that have this disease. After some motivation therapy, they have interesting for being cared. It's a curious formula. People that have rich and painful experience of life. I think that is I have to highlight this.
Yes, yeah, it's a very particular collective which has a lot of difficulties in order to address themselves with a problem. But thank you very much, Joana.
Thank you.
So Brian, maybe your connection is better now. I can see.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So what are the characteristics of the people you work with?
We work with numerous different groups on our social farming project. We work with many different groups, but the main two groups of people are those with disabilities, mainly intellectual disabilities, and also people who are recovering from mental ill health. So it can be a variety of mental illness, including addiction, as Joana has spoken of. And then we have other groups, people who are long-term unemployed, migrants and asylum seekers. We have young people at risk, so young people who may be dropping out of school, refusing to go to school, people who have not completed, basic formal levels of education, older people with dementia, people who have acquired brain injuries. So quite a wide range of groups attend social farming placements on the farms that we work with. They all have their own particular needs, challenges, and goals. And many people with disabilities, for instance, the access to services, the choice to access the service that they want, or make a choice of the type of life that they want to have based on the disabilities and the challenges that it poses in their life, is the key in dealing with those people. And some people's goals is to seek employment, whether that's part-time, temporary, or seasonal employment. They're long-term goals because many of the people we deal with are distant from the labor market. They may not have worked in quite some time. They may be looking to work for the first time, or they may be looking to seek options to work. So they might be trying to develop interests or an understanding of their interest in various sectors to work in. And we find that the farm provides that for people. So they can, because on the farm you may have workshop skills, you know, food preparation, care of animals, growing of plants, harvesting, preserving. There's craft and technical skills, you know, the repairs of machinery. We've had people develop an interest in photography by going onto farms. So there's a wide variety of things to do, and it can send people in different directions with their interests and see what might interest them in terms of employment in the future. And that applies to people with mental ill health, people who've come to the country. We've had 2 farmers from Syria who came as refugees, and they took a placement on a farm because they had experience farming. They wanted to experience farming in Ireland. So it ranges hugely what people want. And the placement on the farm is goal-centered, so it's person-centered and goal-centered. So we accommodate all those things in the farm placement, and with a view to a person's choices and goals, and mainly in terms of occupational or employment or further training. So I hope that gives a sense that people have specific, very specific issues. We had some people who had spent a long time in institutional care settings, and they were transferring to live in the community because they're decongregation of these services, residential services. They had intellectual disabilities. Some of them were in wheelchairs. They had vision impairments, but they experienced activity and life on the farm in terms of moving from that setting to a community, to live in a community setting, and maybe not necessarily focused on their employment prospects, but on occupational activities that would improve their lives, and based on being active and taking part in the activities in the community that they were moving to. So the goals can vary hugely. So I hope that gives a sense maybe of the type of people we work with.
Yeah, it does. It's a very wide range of people you work with, and I
Yes.
understand that the project will fit different objectives depending on the needs and goals of each of them. But it seems very interesting outcomes from that. Thank you, Brian. So, Lorenzo, what are the characteristics of the people you work with?
Really interesting, the answer of Brian. Yes, I'd like to tell you our history on this kind of project like Legambiente. We are an environmental association born in the 1980s on a nuclear battle in Italy. With the healthcare company 10 years ago asked us, this is the beginning of this kind of project in Legambiente, because we was born for other part, for environmental aspects. Had a problem. The problem that with temporary mental distress make trainings not for the goal of the training, but for having the pocket money. And so they say, no, we have to change the view of this training. We have to find a view for have a goal that could be an environmental goal, an environmental mission, to have a training that can work on 2 things: competence about green jobs, not tiger green jobs, but easy green jobs. Then maybe in the future I speak about this. And the other is the loneliness of the person that stay in a temporary mental distress. They are closed in trainings just for them, pocket money and courses just for them. Also, we just try to we change with the healthcare company this method, and we start with Legambiente to speak about trainings on green jobs, and to have cittadinanza attiva, citizen active citizenship with them. So we have to build habit with them. This creates a change on this view. So they start to attending the trainings not with pocket money, but because they were interested in in this area, and they start to have the activities with other people. We have results. So the director of the healthcare company start to say this is a good way for the person that attend this kind of courses. And also we start from this 10 years ago for changing this and create a net also with the project ECHO that you said at the beginning, for creating in 15 regions in Italy a method like this. Maybe for someone that works on this from several years, I'm looking for Brian who works in England, there is a very high tradition about this kind of method. Instead, in Italy, we had to have several years to speak about this. So for now, for answering your question, we are working for temporary mental distress and on social and ethnic minority to speak to have this kind of approach. It's important for us, and I stop speaking because I finish my minutes, is to have the social aspects and the environmental aspects together. Not share, but we have to have a mission together. This is our way of thinking on this subject.
That's excellent. Thank you very much for all the context behind the question, Lorenzo. That was really interesting. So we'll pass on the third question, which is it's a summary of the last two. It's like, how does rurality affect the vulnerability of the community you work with? So we had the depiction of the type of collectives you work with, but if you put the rurality on top of it, how does it affect it? So Joana, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. We think that rural areas have good and negative aspects in our community. On the one hand, we think that rurality could be an opportunity for these people. Because we are a small village, we know our neighbors and we know each other. So the community could be a support to identify cases that need our care. The community is like a big family here. For some people that feel alone in this journey, I mean about the alcohol treatment, for example. The rurality could be a good impact because enable, for example, assistance in the purchase medicines, make an appointment in a doctor, make payments, for example. So the community is a way to host and assist them to find an occupation, for example, and they are the support many times to take care and help them. At last but not least, despite of rurality, the tourism has a huge impact in Arouca, allowing a good market. So this is the good aspects. On the other hand, the rurality have negative aspects, for example, fewer opportunities for employment. And our association is a small village and could not be good for the sales because it's far away of big cities, for example, Porto. The culture and the beliefs are strong. The people are not open to see different approaches. We have also the aging questions. I think that is the same. The access to technologies like internet in some locals is difficult to have signal. The less access because of proximity of healthcare, schools and main service, for example. So we think that have good and not good aspects.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand. Like there are some opportunities also from being living in rural areas that we might foresee, no? But thanks. It was really interesting. Thank you very much, Joana.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, how does rurality affect the vulnerability of the people you work with? Because that might be an extra.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly adds challenges because if you look at the big groups we work with, they're trying to access employment and trying to access services, whether they be health services, education services, training services. So rurality adds challenges like access via transport, or if the transport is there, and the accessibility of the services themselves, the cost of that transport, etc., and the use of it. So people, say, with intellectual disability may have difficulty, and they may rely on somebody else actually to support them on transport. So it adds significant challenges to people because of the rurality. Obviously, the opportunities are much less. Again, if you're looking for employment, you're limited to the type and nature of employment necessarily. But what we find is that rurality engages us in trying to be more innovative. And I suppose that's where our social farming activity came from, because there are farms in every community. And so we felt that people could access them locally and benefit from the richness that that provides. So it was an innovation of linking what's there and the assets that are there and adding value to them, to a sector that was finding real challenges. So that would be the mental health providers, the disability service providers, etc. So whilst it adds challenges, I think it calls on everybody to be more innovative and to collaborate much more, to find solutions to the challenges of rurality. So certainly, and I think that the policymakers may not understand the level of or depth of those challenges, and certainly ignore them to an extent. So the work we do is to try and record and research what we do so that we can feed into the policy arena as well. So because, you know, we find that national policy is based on, I suppose, macro national concerns, and it can leave certain rural areas very, very isolated and very behind. So, and that may not always be understood properly. So certainly for the individual groups, it provides different challenges. So for, you know, for people, say in the mental health service, you know, they may have to travel again. The services may or may not be available. We see some health centers closing, so the professionals don't come into the community, so people have to go there. And that gives them, you know, people who are vulnerable don't necessarily take part in the recovery as much as they can. And the community, unless you try and open the community up, as Joana said, to understand the challenges that a person with addiction has, that community can then help that person as much as the professional or the clinicians. And that's what we try to do at Social Farming. Bring people with real challenges into the community and make it ordinary, you know, because we all have challenges in our lives, no matter who we are. Some people have more than others. But an inclusive society would see people as persons and deal with them as a person, as opposed to the issue they have. And that's why we see social farming offering, and farms in the community offering an opportunity to be an inclusive society and to support everybody who's vulnerable, no matter what their challenge is. And moving towards that will help address the rurality, and that can be applied across, like we see it being applied across all the different sectors of people with disabilities, mental ill health, young people, older people who need care or who have dementia. So it applies right across the way. And even employment, you know, we've seen the way that farms and social farms can help people to look at their own lives and just devise ways to be occupied more, either as volunteers, contributing to society, getting part-time work on a multiple basis with different interests that they have. So it can provide a collective response to the challenges of rurality. So, and I think that, you know, we're beginning to see and understand maybe some of those impacts that rurality gives to these individuals. And it varies from person to person, really. You know, it's not, there are some collective impacts, but the personal impacts are very important. And it's when you work with individuals, you see the challenges that rurality provides to them. So some it may be transport, some it's accessibility, some it's a fear of people in the community knowing what the matter or what the challenges they have or that the community might know. So there's a lot of different things there. I hope that's explained some way what the impact we see.
Yeah, that's excellent, Brian. Yeah, because you came up from the policy vision to the individual and the specific impact on the personal impact on the rurality. So that's very interesting. I really like what you said about inclusive, what is to be living in an inclusive society, even if that is just an ideal way, but it's very inspiring. Thank you. So Lorenzo, can you tell us how does rurality affect the vulnerability of the community you work with?
Okay, yes. I'd like to approach this question in a dynamic way, because if there are some characteristics that we have in a rural area that are very not good for temporary mental distress and the minority, social and ethnic, so the person that we work with. And these characteristics, we have to think that we can change. And so it's important when to speak about the rural areas that we don't have to think something that is this and we have to conserve like this, but we have, like to say also at the beginning, to think that if these characteristics can change. And this is important when you work with a little town to understand, to explain that these things may change. You were saying at the beginning, so making some specific question. You say at the beginning, we have the smart working, so we have to defeat this digital divide. So we have to work on this. On this. I don't know if you listen to me. Just make me an okay, because okay, I see Brian. I don't know why. This, if we accept this transition, this change, we have to have local activities together to change this mind. Brian said before, extraordinary projects are not enough. We have to do this ordinary if we want to do this change. When you work in the little town, you are very near to say, yeah, but the habits are very good. The cultural aspect, the cultural aspects are very important. Yes, but we have to think that these things may change. And for doing this, we have to have rhythm to our investments and to have a big alliance, not just with social organizations, but also with economical organizations. We have to say that the people that lives in the little town, these little town areas, these rural areas, in Italy we call aree interne, may have a different position. And we know we just don't want the people that coming back, but we want new people. And we want new people from all of the world. This is, I know this could be something strong, but it's important to understand that this is the transition. We have to fight like this: the transportation, the empty houses, the things for the new jobs, the environmental transition. It's important to build a new way for living that places and to have new opportunities. If we don't accept this transition, we are going to close, and we are going to conserve the bad part of the little town, that it's not enough to have a restart. And so we have to convince to have a lot of training, a lot of investments, because training and investment together, to have a new way for habit to stay in that place. This is a very big challenge, because it's not absolutely, I speak for Italy, that the people that stay in that place accept this challenge. Because we can have two ways, and I stopped speaking because I finished the 3 minutes, to be a little bit closed on the new things, innovation and persons, and open-minded to find a new way for doing that. It means not to lose cultural tradition, to lose habits, but you have to mix this with the new things that are coming. And it is a very big challenge that I hope that we can do together.
Yes, thank you, Lorenzo. Yeah, I agree with you that the both things need to be together. Keeping tradition, keeping cultural, but not being scared of welcoming new people, new alliances in order to grow and have a better life for the rural areas. So thank you for your contribution. So we're going to go through to the fourth question, which is, what are the opportunities for employability that you have found in this field? So maybe Joana, if you want to start.
Yes. Developing our project, we feel that the community acceptance and is involved in this project, and the beneficiaries are involving also. This is a surprise. And the versatility of our project, our products, because we work with wicker, okay, and we adapt the products. For example, aromatic wicker, wicker tea, wicker with agriculture products, and adjusting the raw material for creating new products also. For example, we create the Mikado emulsions. Use the skills and competencies of our people and are tailored for creating new products and different activities also. For example, we cover the wicker products with manufacturing still done by the beneficiaries. We have good partners and people who want to join us. Customers that buy wicker products and agriculture also. People are interested to learn wicker process. National local media search our project also. And we are invitation by participation in local marketplace, for example, for sell our products. This is the main the main unexpected point.
It's interesting because the thing is, your community at the end, your activity has generated different things. Yes. At the end of the day, have different outcomes, for say the least. So thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, what are the opportunities for employability that you have found in this field?
Sorry. Yeah, I suppose people have found more connections in the community after taking part in social farming, and that has led to them taking up opportunities of employment, as I said, be it part-time, seasonal, or in some cases longer term. Many of the people I said that we talked or interact with on our project are very distant, so there's quite a lead-in time for them, or those who are working towards employment. And we also have another project apart from social farming that is working with people in the mental health field to get into employment. So it's a rapid employment search for people who have psychosis. So we interact, or we bring all our projects together. We have a number of other projects in our company, and we collaborate with other people who support employment throughout the country. And I suppose a social farming placement allows the farmer, who is not a clinician, not an employment specialist, to get to know the person and to bring out, I suppose, their strengths, their interests, and to help facilitate them locally, very locally, to see where they can go with those. And we see that that has great value. And it's part of the innovation I talked about earlier. And those farmers are connected to all sorts of businesses locally. They're connected to suppliers, and some of them are producing food and selling it themselves. So they see opportunities to help people to move in different directions. And so that's where the key for employability is. It's natural, it's local, and it's very specific to the individuals involved. That is, to the farmer and also to the person who is on that farm. And obviously we facilitate that and help to make the changes happen for people in terms of their employment opportunities, their employment wishes and choices. And some people choose, in fact, go from wanting to do something, and by the time they're finished, choosing something completely different because they realize, well, that wasn't really what I was interested in. This is it. So it allows people a space, an ordinary community space, to review that in a very natural way and not forced or not be under pressure, because after the collapse in 2008, the economic collapse, and now with large levels of unemployment with COVID, there's a major policy drive just to get people into work and back to work and off these COVID payments, etc. And it doesn't take the person into consideration necessarily. It forces them to do things they don't necessarily want to do. So I find, and we find, that this space of social farming and the community space allows people to build the resilience, to build their understanding of themselves within their own community, and to take the opportunities that are there locally and to take their time in doing that. So I would say that's the key opportunity we've found with social farming. In that terms, it allows a space for innovation as well, and natural innovation, because people themselves, farmers who are under pressure, of low incomes, who are looking for opportunities as well, are innovative in themselves, and they'll innovate with people that they naturally connect with. So it's the connections that matter, and those connections lead to employment opportunities that we never envisaged. So that's probably a sense of it. Yeah,
that's very interesting what you just said about the urge of getting back to work, no matter what the cost. No?
Yeah.
And I really like that part. Thank you very much, Brian.
Miriam, you are muted.
No, sorry, I mute myself. I don't know why, sorry. Lorenzo, I wanted to give the floor to you. What are the opportunities for employability that you have found in this field?
In the project ECHO, we had a big research in Italy with data from companies. It was a very particular information that we had. We have to imagine when we speak about environmental transition, we think that this transition is important for higher education, for the people that have a degree, for example. And so we start to research with companies if this was true or not true. And with Green Factor, this is a famous research company in Italy that works on this field, we found that the companies were looking person for job that have green skills, not for just higher education, but also for non-higher education. It means that environmental transition, if it's well built, can be a good way also for inclusion. And we call this in the project circular inclusion, because we spoke about circular economy, but it is well built for make also inclusion for persons that have, for example, temporary mental distress or social minority. But this is really important to understand, because we were surprised about this. When we have the data, the final data, it was really clear that maybe who is looking for a cooker in a restaurant, he want to have a cooker that knows, that have green skills, because it's important. A person that works with old people have to have green skills and something like that, artisan. And we have a very big book that we can share with everyone about this research. And this is a very good, that you can understand that because if we can build a just transition, we can have the opportunities to have job opportunities for including people that have not higher education, that it's really important to stay on the train of the environmental aspects. And this is the way that we're looking for, that I say at the beginning, don't share the social and the environment, but we have to fight to be a good transition that can be including. And this could be good for a lot of opportunities in a rural area. And someone before we say something, but for sure the touristic aspects are really important. The things about health, sorry for my English, cura della persona, healthy of person is really important for staying also there. The social agriculture, we say already said. So there are different aspects that we can work on rural area. Be careful. Don't say that. Don't think that the environmental association is something that is not important for the inclusion. This is the way I think that could be useful for everyone is working on this, to have a Europe more stronger and more economical, ready for the future. And this is important also for the rural area and for the persons that work with us.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. Yeah, it's really important what you just said about making the environmental transition inclusive, not only directed to job positions where only people with degrees and masters and they are really specialized can fit. So that's really interesting. Thank you. So we're going to go through the last question, which is very similar to the previous one. It's called because it's about all the opportunities that have arisen also from the experience. But we wanted to ask you about the unexpected and surprising results that you have found while developing your projects. Like what wasn't there when you started that happened while you were doing and you weren't planning to discover. So Joana, I think you, in your previous question, you already said many, but maybe you can.
I think that I already answered this question.
I know. So maybe if you can develop a bit more, so people can understand how that was surprising and why. Like for example, the media.
I will try to explain. Okay. I think that the surprising result is about our adaptation and the development of products, Acolher products. Because in a Acolher project, we work with Acolher work and agriculture. So I think that the community involved and buy our products. And I have tourists that buy our products also. Okay, and the community involved in our project because we feel that we ask to do some specific products for events, for example, for Christmas, for have some specific dates that they ask to us to do that. And the invitation by participating in local markets, for example, is a point that I have to highlight. And we think that the use the skills and competencies that our people that we have here and tailor for create new products. So use this competence and adapt and develop new products and new activities. I think that is the unexpected result that we have in this project. Not only the treatment and the process of treatment of alcohol problems, but these results, these outcomes that one expected, the products. Okay.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, it's like how the products have already generated interest
Yes.
in the community, like something that
Yes,
was at the beginning was more into requalification, doing something, learning to do something has success, right?
Yes, that is.
And you said something before about local media and national media, right?
Yes, because this is a lot of interesting, because we use a traditional how can I say art, if I can say that, and you adapt. And while we are working wiker work products, we work other competencies. It's not only a product, it's a product with a story of life, it's a product made with love and made with a difficult story of life, and a long process of treatment also. So it's not just a product to sell, and that's all. No, it's a product that we work all day, a lot of competence, personal, social competencies. So it's a long journey, but I think that that is a good a good way to work.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting, and also had to do what Lorenzo said before about not giving up the tradition and the culture of the area. You put it in there.
Yes, you use, and we work about these traditional practices, and we can sell, and we can work also this problem, because this is a problem, then this is a disease. So I think that is the one aspect. Result is the involvement of our community also. It's not just our project, it's community project, and this is the one aspect result.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Joana.
Thank you.
Miriam, you muted again yourself.
I always do this. I don't know why. Sorry. So based on the experience you have on the field, Brian, what have been the unexpected and surprising results that you have found while developing the projects?
In many ways, it goes back to what Joana spoke about there. It's the inherent built-in value that comes from the values of what people put into the product. And she talked about that. And it's very clear, you know, in the economy we're in, everything is throwaway, you know, and there's no real value in it, because food takes, like, to produce a vegetable takes several months through several seasons. It has to get care and attention to get to that stage. And just like the wicker work, the care, love, and attention that people put into it, and based on the challenges they have, you know, that it has more value than the price or the cost of it. And that's what I think we see that farmers and farming families can do in the community. It's more than the cost or the price of what they actually do to support people in their community. And I suppose it's hard to get that sense across to the political system, to policymakers, that what that means more than the cost or the price. So if you're looking for investment, you're investing in people, and you don't see that necessarily. Like, you get some wicker work, but it's not just ordinary wicker work, as Johanna explained. We see that same thing in the farming community and in the support that's provided, but also in the products and services that are produced, and in the person that emerges from that, and where they go from that. And that is where we see some surprising results, and particularly when people participate. So she talked about, you know, the people with the addictions participating. They're choosing to put their time and energy and effort in recovery into the producing the products. Likewise, we see people where they're asked and given an opportunity. Many people with mental ill health were institutionalized. Many people with disabilities were institutionalized and more or less told what they had to do and what they must do. And still, with very limited opportunities in rural areas, you're told you must get on this bus and you must go to that town and this is your service for today. They don't get a choice like you or I to do what they like, to do what they choose. And so if you allow people to participate in making those choices, whether they're asylum seekers, refugees, people with disabilities, people with mental health, they have a far better experience of that. They get a far better life. And ultimately, the support and services they need can be reduced because they're happier people. They can recover, they can have a better life, and a life that they choose. So everybody's choice might not be what we would choose or somebody else would choose for them, but they can choose their own. And that makes a big, big difference. So allowing people to participate in the responses and in their own employment opportunities, in their own journey is very important. But it requires a collaborative approach from service providers, from the state policies, from state funding. And that you can talk about that in terms of climate adaptation. You know, on farms, we see the natural environment very much at play because you have the weather conditions. So there has to be flexibility to allow people to respond for the particular challenges in their lives. So out of what we saw, allowing people to participate and collaborate in the solutions to the problem, whatever they are, because there can be wide, whether they're social, cultural, climate, biodiversity, whatever the issue is, it can work wonders. And so that's the experience we have. So allowing people to participate fully and properly. And that's what inclusion is, allowing people to participate properly and fully. A lot of people talk about it, but it doesn't necessarily happen. But when it does, and I think building that understanding in society is important, maybe from projects like this, that, you know, that value is important and needs to be valued, not just by the people doing it or the people who understand it, but by wider society. So I would say we have something to learn and something to tell people about what we do. Yeah, that's probably what we've learned most.
Yeah, that's excellent. I love the way that you link it with what Joana was saying about the value of the product and the choosing, what
yes.
the ability that people need to have in order to. Mm-hmm. So that's wonderful, very inspiring. Thank you, Brian.
You're muted again, I think.
Oh my God, I do this all the time. Lorenzo, please let us know, based on your experience, what have been the unexpected or surprising results that you have found while developing your projects?
Our project, like I think also the others, were destroyed by the projection that we did before the COVID situation. The pandemic situation was totally inefficient, ineffective for during the pandemic situation. So we had to change method, instruments, and a lot of things that we thought was important for making circular inclusion. And the things that I thought during that hard period was, wow, it's a really hard to have results during the pandemic situation, for have participation, to have inclusion, to have job opportunities. And instead, the positive things that I would like to say, that in the 15 territories, the places where we work, nobody stopped on this project. And so we had problems, we had to solve problems, and we change our method. This is a positive thing that I think is very good to learn, that we have to find also in the difficulties a new way for making inclusion. There is no one way. There is a lot of roads that we can have, and we can. These adaptive projects are really important. I thought during pandemic that it was not possible, but the person says me that it's possible, and we can have this way to find, to have a mix, to have a new method, also making inclusion on internet. When we thought this before the pandemic, we thought it's impossible. No, we have to stay together. We have Okay, it's not the best, but we can find a way to making this also this, so we don't have to stop. The thing that I'd like to say that is maybe is related to the project that we are doing together now is the collaboration between public administration, companies, and associations. We are more effective when we can find a way to stay together on that mission. If we move without this system, we call this in Italy, we call this distretti dell'economia civile, district of civil economy. It means that different actors put together and accept that mission. Because in the rural area, it's impossible that the association, that a company, or that a public administration can solve the problems alone. But for sure, we have to stay together. And it's a very big problem. I speak for Italy, but it's not, I don't know if the same in the other countries, a language problem. We speak different language between companies, association, and public administration. We say in a the problems, like we have a problem like public administration, we have a problem with companies, we have a problem with association. No, we have to start to change this this way, because in other way we are not to solve this problem. And I think that a mission project together that is a positive ecosystem, like Distretti dell'Economia Civile, but like other in Spain and in other in Portugal, is really important to have this different way. So we have to speak different language, because it's not easy. Like saying this during a training, it's easy. We have to do this. Oh yes, this is the way. Okay, but we have to practice, because when we stay in a little town, when you stay with the regional public administration, with the measure of a little town, you listen that this is a problem that we have to solve. And maybe we can have funds, Europe funds, for doing that. But for making this an impact on this, we have to find a way for staying together. This is the way, the places where we are more effective, where we found this solution between these three actors. Because you can do things, so you have municipalities in your project. It's really important, the role for having a good project, but it's also really important the companies inside the project, that we have a different language, but we have a mission that we have to do together. I know that it's not easy. We know that it's not easy, but we have to try to find. The last thing that I want to say, don't for our project, it was really important, don't do the project with always with the same partner. In the local, it's really important to have always a new check of the good partner that you can find in a little town, and don't like closing your things with always the same partner. We say, I work very good with this partner for 10 years. It's good, but very good, but you have to always to check if there are other person, other association, companies, so public administration to work with. With this with method we call mappature, the potential maps of the territory, because it's really important to find new partner. The territory, the land, the places change during the time, so you have to check very fast. Maybe it could be also interesting using also data, big data, informatic data for making this, because it's for Legambiente, it's a big problem that you work always with the same person, always with the same organization, and this is not good effective. The good effective for our project is to work also with new partner and new people.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Yeah, I think one of the main outcomes at the end is to find this language that is common for the three agents, the third sector, municipalities or public administration, and companies, in order to have a well-structured project. And we have that in account, and don't do the projects with the same partner always. If you want to have success. Thank you very much. Anyway, thanks everyone for all the insightful contributions on this challenge of inclusion in rural areas. As we could see, we have covered every level, since the public administrations and up to the personal level, you know, going through even through community support, involvement and such. So I would like to say that one of the key elements is how important labor reintegration process is, since it allows people in situations of vulnerability to develop personal and professional skills who are effective for social integration in rural areas. So thank you very much. I would like to say that everyone, for the audience, please let us know how do you feel in the chat. Write your questions so we can have a small Q&A, and maybe we can, we have 10 minutes for a few questions and do a wrap up with some highlights, and we'll be done then. So
yes, Miriam, there is one question. So the question can be addressed to all of the speakers. Mainly it says if the projects are economically, like if they can be done without funding, like social funding from Europe or any other organizations for the social part. I understand, or I want to understand. I think it means that if the project can be done with funding only for the agriculture part, or the agricultural funding, maybe from the PAC, I don't know exactly. I don't know if I understood well the question, but mainly you can just tell us from where are you getting the fund for running the projects, and if you are using funding not for social purposes, but also for economical purposes, for any economical activity. Maybe, Joana, you can start, we can continue the same order, something fast, just let us know how do you get the funding for the project.
Okay, if I understand well the question, at the moment the Acolher project, it's not self-sustainable. We sell some products and we try to employ the people through the agriculture and the weaker products and the skills training, but it's not self-sustainable yet, okay? And our aim, it's not that project will properly self-sustainable, is to help the people to find a job, okay? At the moment we have 5 people working with us daily, but they are financial by employment center as well. So the association pay a percentage, but the employment center pay the rest. Okay, I don't know if I answered.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joana. Brian, maybe you can let us know how you get the funding or how you fund your projects, the project.
Yeah, currently the Department of Agriculture provides some funding to develop the concept of social farming. The placements themselves, we're increasingly looking at the Department of Health and Health and Social Care providing the costs to farmers, because they give up their time. They provide some, there are some costs for the farmers, transport, insurance, things like that, consumables on the farm, food for people who come there. So those kind of things can be covered from the health social care sector, and we see it developing in that way, as say it has in the Netherlands, for instance, in other countries. So it is funded through different mechanisms. I just see another question there in English, so I can answer that maybe briefly. There is a change in policy, both in mental health and disabilities in Ireland, to support people to make choices. That's beginning to take hold in the health and social care sector. But we in the social farming side establish an induction process on the farms that the parties to the arrangement sit down and talk out what's going to happen for the individual, and with the individual present, so that they can get what they want from it. because we know that the success of a placement on the social farm is largely based on the person and what they get from it. So if you don't start from that, you won't get that delivered. And so there is a person-centered plan drawn up for the placement, whether it's short placement or long placement, so that the person gives a sense of what they want to achieve. They can be very straightforward and simple goals. People can give longer term goals, and the farmer works towards that. And then we review that during and after the placement takes place. So we try to make that a real process from the start. The choice to take a social farming placement in itself is based on the individual making that choice as well. So we build it in. It takes time, and it takes a lot of commitment from all parties to make it real, rather than just a statement that, you know, people's choices matter. But when you do make it matter, it makes a difference. And so we build it in at every stage. But policy in Ireland is beginning to say that it must happen more and more. And there isn't individualized budgeting for people with disabilities yet, as there is in other countries, but that's on the way. So I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Thank you very much, Brian. And Lorenzo, maybe you can give us like information about how you fund the project. And also there is a few questions. I will just address it to Lorenzo because we don't have that much time, but we don't want to just pass the questions. So one of them is the one we know, that the funding. Other one, it's here it says if these projects or your project in specific, it's like bringing real opportunities of life, or it's just a project for community engagement or something like this. And also if you know any project or experience in beekeeping, I think you know because you have it in the Eco project. So yeah, these questions, if you can answer them, we will finalize the questions round.
Yes, I have to make a difference between the national project that it was financed, the fund was from Ministero del Lavoro, Ministry of Labor of Italy, for the national coordination of the project. So we create 15, we called it this rehab, so 15 physical places in Italy on different economical aspects. Not everyone makes the same thing. So for this kind of beginning national project, I have to say that without the funds of Ministry of Labor was really hard to have this kind of the work of almost 24 months of coordination. Several of these rehab that stay in the places are still working because they chose activity that is economical sustainable during the time. It's not always for everyone, but for example, for making some concrete example, on I said during the presentation, touristic aspect. So one of them opened an educational center in a little town in Italy, and they started working with children, with a little local restaurant. So they are still working about sustainable tourism, and we are working with several places on reuse center, but not in a voluntary work, but in a professional work, because we did several experience with municipalities that needs to have reuse center in the town. So I try to answer because it's different for us, because all the rehab had different activities. Several, I am an economist, my profession is an economist. Several are sustainable and economical, and so they continue, and something with the project they stop. We have some beekeeping experience. Maybe I can leave my email and we can connect with José Fernandez to have more information about that. This is, I think, I don't see other question, but the other is also about economical something thing. So our project was to create economical system that can work in the territory. So our focus was this, connecting, like I said a lot of times during this interview, social aspects and environment aspects together.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, in case anyone has more questions, you can send it to us. We'll try to answer you. I think Brian Lorenzo already put on the chat the website of the project and the association. Also, Joana, you can include it. So thank you very much. There is, I think, no more questions, and the questions we have has been answered. We are very close to the, we are on time to finish, David, but we would like to highlight a few conclusions, just a few ones. I will highlight the three, and Miriam, you can finish with that. But basically, we, after this event, we can say that the rural Europe is highly differentiated, but it has similar challenges that has to be addressed in a different way, but they have very similar challenges. And it's very important to take into consideration the community, the rural community. We need to design projects based on a person-centered approach and community-centered approach, meaning that the people, the participants, the beneficiaries of the project have to be taken into consideration. Not only taken, they have to be the co-designers of the project to assure the sustainability of the project. And also, as Brian said, inclusion means letting people participate properly and fully. So this is one of the, for me, most important conclusions of the event. Also, Miriam, you can continue because we don't have that much time, so I don't want to take a lot of time from this.
Yes, also, since it's already 12:31, maybe the conclusions we can send them over after to all of you who have participated today as an audience and as a panelist, of course. So don't worry, we'll send you all the conclusions. We took a lot of writing, so don't worry. I would like to finish this part saying thank you very much to Joana Brandão, to Brian Smith and Lorenzo Baruca for being with us today, sharing all the knowledge from your experience. It's been a pleasure, it's been an honor to listen to you all. I came out from here really inspired. And please, if you write down on the chat your projects, and make sure when you write it that is addressed to the panelists and participants, because otherwise only the people who are talking can see it. And then to finish, I would like to send a quick poll, and please let us know how we have done, please. It's just 2 questions before we go. Yes, thank you very much everyone who has attended the meeting. And I'm gonna write down in the chat the webpage of our project. I'm sure you know it, but maybe you can keep all the associations that have been here today. They have the projects linked on our website, so you can go there, okay? And if you want to join the network, if you want to be involved on the ask us some questions, please write us down, okay? Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone needs to say something else.
Thank you very much to everyone, and especially to my colleague Miriam, who has organized this great event, and to the speakers. Thank you, because without you this wouldn't be possible. So thank you, and I hope everyone enjoyed the event.
Grazie mille. Bye bye.
Grazie.
Bye.
It's been a pleasure. Brian, Lorenzo, Joana.
Grazie, obrigada, and thank you.
We'll keep in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye, Joana.
Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Ciao.